Thank you very much, Sam. So we organized this webinar as kind of a tool or an aid to prepare for the application. And I will have a short introduction, a short presentation. I will talk a little bit why we want to work with Austria and what's behind this this call, what's the goal and the background. And then address a few important aspects of this call for proposal, what I think might be important to underline. And then we will have time for questions and answers, and I will do my best to answer as many questions as I can. So now I will share my screen. Yeah, just a second. Just a moment. Yes. I hope you can see my screen. So for this, but the general issues around this call. So it's for civil society organizations registered in Austria. The total budget of this call is 150,000 euro, and we will be able to support approximately 6 one-year project grant. As in terms of the timeline, so that you can plan ahead, the call went out in mid-June. Now we're having a webinar for applicants. And the 18th of August is the deadline for submission. We will have a selection committee meeting on the 25th of October. So applicants may expect a decision and an answer to their application around early November. I wanted to flag here that probably we will not be able to provide a detailed feedback to all the applications. Obviously, everyone will be contacted with a decision, but we might not have the capacity to provide an analysis and a detailed rationale why an application is not supported. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of this, and thank you in advance for your understanding. The grant periods will start on the 1st of January. I also wanted to underline that. So in terms of the background and the plans around this call for proposal, Civitates has not worked in Austria before. So Austria is a new priority country for us. And we decided to enter a country by first launching an open call for proposal for project grants. So we wanted to look at this open call for proposals as a way to familiarize ourselves with the context, to see what are the players who work on issues around civic space, basic freedoms and civil society and regulative and the broader enabling environment. And it would be also an opportunity, what we hope to get out of this call for proposals, that one of the grantees will transition into a core partner next year. We usually work with core partners in our priority countries. Usually one core partner per country who receive 2-year core support. But with Austria, we decided to first go with this kind of mapping exercise, and then select a core partner once we are more familiar with the context, very more familiar with the country and the main actors in the country. So in terms of the approach, what I would underline here is first the opportunities around transformative momentums, with the collaborative work and the more future-oriented thinking to anticipate and address future scenarios. Just to give you a little bit of explanation on this, we realized that closing civic space and threats to civic space is a very complex issue, and that it means that for civil society, it can be sometimes hard to prioritize a problem around civic space and to get the attention of the wider public until the deterioration is severe. So what I'm trying to underline here is when the first or more soft symptoms of closing civic space emerge, it's very hard to address these and see them as kind of part of a systemic problem. And when we were defining the priority countries for this year, we were looking into to all civic space reports from Civicus, Sweden, Freedom House. And what we saw, for example, in the case of Austria, that even though Austria is not, in Austria, the threats to civic space are not that severe as some neighboring countries, for example, in Hungary or Slovakia, but the decline seems to be steep. What we would like to achieve with this call for proposal is to support civil society organizations to look ahead, to anticipate challenges that may emerging, and develop strategies and develop capacities to meet these challenges. So we want to build the readiness and the preparedness of civil society. So in terms of the focus on the call, there is focus on defending and protecting civic space, but also opening and expanding. So it's more a future forward thinking approach, and that works with an aim to get civil society out of the reactive mode and put them on a path where they can be more proactive and preventive. In terms of the grantees we are looking for organizations that have a proven track record of work around basic freedoms, that already have impact and achievements. The connection within the Austrian civil society scene is also an important element. Civitates embraces this collaborative approach. That's what we experienced during our previous work in spaces where civic space was closed, that collaboration among civil society organizations, it's something that a good strategy to build the resilience of civil society. And I would also underline public engagement and mobilization as an important aspect of the work, and that's something that we also would like to see from our grantees. I would underline here that there is an exclusion criteria that is pretty strict. We cannot support any organizations that affiliated with political parties. So this is a hard line that I would underline here. In terms of the funding, we are offering 25,000 euro for 1 year, mostly for project costs. And what I also like to mention here is that the total grant amount must remain under the half of last year's operational budget. And I'm just underlying it here because it overrides the 25,000 offered grants. So if an organization's budget was smaller, then it might not be able to fully exploit the 25,000 euro that we generally offer. It obviously applies to smaller organizations with a smaller budget. And this is the initial thoughts I wanted to share with you. So I'm stop sharing now. And if you have any questions, then please either put it in the chat or raise your hand and address it directly. And I see a question from Stefan. Please go ahead, Stefan.
Yes, thank you, Esther, for the presentation. I just have one question. I did not fully get the last point. So is it the problem if last year's operational budget is below or above? Half of last year's budget is below or above the 25?
So just to be precise, in order to be able to apply for 25,000, you must have a 50,000 operational budget last year.
Or more, right?
Or more, yes.
Okay,
or more.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
And if it's less, then you can still apply, but for a lesser amount. Yeah. Other questions? No questions?
Maybe, Esther, just one question from me is that
Okay.
maybe in people's mind, what kind of project costs would be eligible? I think that might be of interest. Are staff costs, for instance, eligible? And what would be the percentage of overhead costs that we would approve? Thanks.
Okay. In terms of cost, personnel costs can be included in a proportionate of the staff involvement in the project. Any other costs related to the project, mobilization, communication, so what is are related to the core project goals is also acceptable. We cover overheads up till 10%, if I'm right. Sam, please.
The cap is 20%.
20%, yes. Okay, so 20% overheads. Yes. So these are mostly project costs with some overhead, just to summarize.
I have also one quick question. Thanks, Esther. So I'm Aldin from the European Forum Alpbach. Let's assume that we won't have so many applicants. Maybe we will have only 3 and 4. Would you then distribute this 120,000 differently, then give those who applied a higher amount, or is it really capped with 25,000, even though you don't have 6 applicants who meet the requirements?
Well, I mean, if we set aside these amount of money for this purpose, if we don't have enough applicants, we might be able to go a little bit above, but there is a strict limitations around 30,000.
Okay.
So even if in a worst case scenario, there is no interest and Austrian civil society is flourishing without us, there is still some limitation to what extent we can increase. Yes.
Thanks.
And I see Daniela's hands up.
Yes. Maybe one more question. Would you also support something that comes from a small consortium or coalition of organizations?
Coalitions are very welcome to apply, but you need to clearly state who is the leader of the coalition. We will have a grant contract with a coalition leader who will have the responsibility for the grant, obviously. And there might be, or the coalition leader can redistribute some of the funding to organizations, not individuals, but these also should be clearly stated in the budget proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We have a series of questions from Miko Sonio, who ask, one, what is the expected success rate? How many applicants do you expect to receive? Are newcomers organization with fewer than 5 years in the field welcome? That's the first question. Would you like to answer it?
Yes. Well, success rate, how many applications we expect to receive? It is hard to answer because it's, as I said, it's a new country for us. So it's also a good indicator. It would be also a good indicator for us that how many organizations feels or responsive to this kind of work. So I wouldn't go there to give you a number there. Newcomers organizations, I mean, we wouldn't fund startups that just started less than 6 months ago, the work. A little bit older organizations, if they already have considerable work and a track record of work during a few years, it sometimes happens, it's possible, then we would consider them for funding.
The second question is administrative. Are all annexes mandatory? Example, audited accounts and reports? The answer is yes. I mean, the application will be considered as incomplete if those audited accounts and reports are not there. And then the final question is, in the budget, only operational costs are eligible. Is there an expected ratio between staff costs and the activity costs? Is there a transactional element requested? Would you like me to answer the budget question?
Yes, if you can.
No, so in the budget template, as you will see, all costs are eligible. Overhead, staff costs and activity costs. There is no ratio expected between the staff costs and the activity costs. We do expect the staff costs, though, to be proportional to the activities which are presented in the project. And the overhead is capped to 20% of the overall budget, as we said. And is there a transactional element requested?
No, it's not. It's not a mandatory part to have transnational element. The goal is to strengthen and build Austrian civil society. So in a later phase, when the grantees are already selected, there might be connected to grantees from other countries. So this is also partially why we cannot be flexible with the language, for example, the language requirements, and ask organizations to submit applications in English. But at the application stage, transnational element is not necessary.
Thank you very much. I dropped quite a few questions. It's all clear. Just for the budget, I would have just one more information to ask. If in the project application there's a co-financing rate that is suggested, as in applicants are suggested to cover themselves part of the budget, or if the project application can be completely funded by the grant. Is it clear?
Yes, it can be completely covered by this grant, but it is also okay if you have additional, or if you can raise additional funding for it and grow it something bigger.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Yes, I would have two follow-up questions.
Sure, please go ahead.
If possible, if consortia apply, does that mean who gives sub-grants in the consortium? Is it then more than 25,000 limit, or is it always 25,000 and those 25 are to be split between the consortium members? This is the first question. And the second question would be, if it is an European international organization based in Austria, should the application fully focus on activities in the Austrian space, or have additional information about the international activities? And is the German-speaking region a plus, like if we're also active in Germany and Switzerland, or not? Is it really just Austria? Thank you.
Okay, so it is 25,000 per applicant. So that's the short answer, and we would primarily want to support work in Austria. So that's the main focus. I mean, if some organizations do work elsewhere, it's okay, it's not a problem. But what we want to fund is work in Austria. And in terms of the work outside of the country, I also refer to this, and maybe I should specify, but one of the main kind of approach of Civitates general work with grantees, that we work with cohorts. So grantees might be connected to the cohorts of other organizations in other countries. We often organize convenings and gatherings and peer-to-peer learning exercises, because that's kind of the main element that informs our strategy, that we create cohorts, including organizations from countries where civic space is almost closed, but also countries where the process is in an earlier phase. And we want to facilitate learning and exchange exercises to see that to what extent civil society strategies developed, let's say in Slovakia or Poland, are adaptable to other contexts, and to what extent countries and civil society based in different countries can learn from each other. And we would like to foster this kind of learning experience for our grantees. Okay, no other questions?
Hi, Esther. I'm sorry again, I joined the webinar late, but I was wondering if you had spoken about whether those project grantees would be able to join the
Yes.
cohort. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, in the beginning, I mentioned that some of our one or maybe two of the project grantees this year might transition into a longer term partner. Yes, it was addressed. I think it's an important piece of information to repeat anyway.
I have a question. Because what you mentioned, that you support with your grantees this transfer of knowledge from different countries where the situation is different. As this is also an issue I'm currently dealing with a lot and I'm concerned with, my question would be, would you also support projects that actually enable some of this experience sharing? Because I think in Austria, to be aware of how this closing of civic space functions, it would be actually quite helpful to also get input from other countries. So I was actually thinking of including this aspect in the project. So yeah, what is your position to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's adds to the main element of the project, I think it can be an interesting part. It's not, as I said, the transnational part is not mandatory, but exchange with and late on a later phase, we also contribute to this kind of exchange. So you can also count on that. Civitates will facilitate this kind of exchanges. And just to elaborate on this exchange part, so you would be, or the selected grantees would be invited to gatherings of Civitates grantees from other countries. So just to be precise, what does it mean that we facilitate this kind of events? There is a question in the chat. Could you please tell, from Natalia, could you please tell if the project activities have to include events? Would you support projects which have only, for example, publication activities, of course, related to the project call? I mean, it's not mandatory to have events. Distribution and engagement and outreach, it's an important part of the call, but events is not a mandatory element. In terms of supporting project which is only, for example, I mean, it's I think if you choose publication as a part of your outreach strategy, it's fine. If it makes sense for the overall project, you don't need to have events, but please keep it in mind that we think that distribution and broader outreach is very important to build connections and share learning among organizations. I hope it answered the question. Okay. I just wanted to note while you're thinking about your next question that since we're recording it, the recording will be posted on our website, and we're also trying to put together a Q&A. And as noted in the guidelines, there is a general email address where you can raise questions if you have questions in a later phase of developing your proposal. But if there is nothing else, everything is clear and straightforward, then I would thank you for your attendance. I'm very much looking forward to receiving proposals and applications. Please be in touch if there is any other questions. And thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.